Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch. Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I am your host, W.J. Sheehan, author of the series of books Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters. 38 volumes in paperback, ebook, Kindle, and audiobook. Available at Amazon and Audible as well. And by the way, folks, all of the books have been squared away on our website now, BigfootTerrorinthewoods.com. You could go on there, and there are all viable links to take you right where you want to go. So please have at it. And, by the way, I've been saying this for the past few podcasts. Very soon, there are going to be some cool Bigfoot Terror in the Woods products for sale at the website, and I will announce that when it is complete. I'm working on that right now with Casey Smith from Sugar Studios, my graphic artist, and collaborating with a few other people for some designs and some ideas. We're working on having a little something for everyone as we go along. And now, may I introduce you to my brother and co-host, KJ Sheehan. Kev, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Did you get that scalp of the Bigfoot for the merchandise, or maybe that finger of the Yeti that Jimmy Stewart smuggled back into the United States? I know you were working on that.
Yeah, it'll be a one-off auction.
Long lost Yeti finger.
Yeah, no, I just took the leg off of a woodchuck and said it was a baby Bigfoot's foot.
You know. The price will be set accordingly. Woodchuck foot, baby Bigfoot foot. That's hard to say like 3 times fast.
I think the people will like what I'm coming up with. A few different things for different folks, different strokes for different folks. Relative to some merchandise, a couple of off-the-cuff ideas and more traditional Bigfoot Terror in the Woods items. And going to start relatively small. I'm not sure what I'll end up coming out of the gate with, maybe 8, 9, 10, 12 different types of items. But I think people will like... You know, folks, like the books, a tremendous amount of work goes into this. I mean, tirelessly. I have tirelessly spent time working on these things. When you're off, I'm working. When you're sleeping, I'm working. When you're on vacation, I'm working. That's what it took to put together what I'm talking about here. And I'm doing that again now with this merchandise thing. Don't ask me how this got into my head to begin with. I couldn't tell you. But, man, once I get my teeth into something, man, I'm just biting away.
I'm telling you, Bill, I'm a customer. I want that. I want that thing that looks like a brown rabbit's foot, but I know it's actually a Bigfoot pinky.
Hey, speaking of having at it, we had a couple of groundhogs around. And they're doing a little bit of damage, and I started talking to my neighbor, and he's got them digging up in his yard and stuff. So I won't tell you what I'm doing about it, but I talked to Tom, my neighbor, the other day, and he says, "Hey, I got one of them." I said, "Oh." He says, yeah, listen to this, Kev. He's got 2 pit bulls.
Oh, no.
They cornered
Do I have to edit this out of the podcast? Or
No.
Okay.
They cornered one of the groundhogs in groundhog, I think woodchuck. I don't know what they are, groundhog, woodchuck.
I don't know the difference, yeah.
They cornered him by a woodpile and were snapping and having a little fight of it, and the woodchuck bit one of them in the nose.
Really?
Yeah, so Tom is coming out of his house on the deck, sees it happening, and calls the dogs off because he sees the dog get bit.
Yeah.
And he calls him in, and I think it was a day or 2 later, he lets him out in the yard, and not thinking, there's going to be another encounter.
Right.
Well, when he comes outside, one of the pit bulls is rattling this thing around by the neck in its mouth, just like a rag doll, throttling this thing, and it was dead. So I said, well, that's one way to get rid of him, Tom.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. But I remembered years ago, Kev, I used to have a neighbor on the other side who sold the house. He had a big Labrador, big black Labby. And I was out in the yard one day, and I see this dog. And I thought he had a deflated football in his mouth. It looked to me like maybe Tom had given him an old pigskin, and he chomped on it, and the air came out of the bladder. It was a freaking groundhog. And he was walking around. You know how like the labs, they like to get the duck, the whatever, and walk around?
Soft mouth, just carry it around.
Just carry it around like, look, Dad, look what I got, And he's marching around the yard with this woodchuck in his mouth, the groundhog, and I said to myself, son of a gun, he freaking captured that thing. It's unbelievable,
Yeah.
All right, so what do we got in the Cryptids in the News and Other Oddities segment?
Well, before we go there, I'm going to hijack us a little bit and talk a little bit about Skinwalker Ranch, because I'm catching up.
Oh, yeah.
And, man, this new season, Bill, we haven't talked about it yet, but I don't know the guy's name, but he's new on there, and he comes and does, like, the after show, kind of like they used to do on Deadliest Catch, where he's talking to all of them about, like, the 6 crazy things that happened and what do you make of it.
Yeah, right? he's from the Search of Oak Island.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, that guy. Yeah. I can't think of his name, though, and I tried to look his name up, and I couldn't find it. But I love, and this is why I love it, like so many of these shows, not mentioning any of their names, it's like they have to dramatize everything 25 times over in order to get an interesting occurrence. Mm-hmm. And Skinwalker is so different in that, I mean, we've talked about it before. In every episode, there's like 5 or 6 unbelievable but realistic things that they capture on film.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but there's so much that it can be a little overwhelming, although highly entertaining. Yeah. And when he comes on, like he works with them to put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Even though they might have happened 2 shows ago, I was really sitting there riveted watching a few episodes of him stitching it together, with my boy Travis. And he's like, remember when you shot oh, no, I shot the rocket. Yeah, whoa.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like really, really good. And it reminds you how much is actually going on that show.
Yeah. And he, during his interviews with them at the table, it's slowed down. And they also review what he's talking about, with the footage on the computer, whatever it is. And you get to see it again and hear a little quiet discussion about it. You know what I mean?
No, and I love it because they put it all together. Like the show is great in that it happens and you're like, whoa, look at that. What is it? And they talk a little bit about it amongst themselves, but then they don't have this like 20-minute conversation. And, even, what's that guy's name? Eric, is it? The dark-haired guy who's like the, analysis guy that works with Travis a lot. You know, he's
Yeah,
always
yep.
in the like operations center looking at the screens.
Yeah, he's got to be somewhat of a scientist or
Oh
something.
man,
you know?
he comes off like brilliant in
Yeah.
these episodes. You
Yeah.
know? And I'm not saying he doesn't in the other episodes, but
See, I'd like to see them do something like this that you're talking about, like with Expedition Bigfoot.
I agree.
I'd like them to really break that down, take it apart, spend an entire show just going over pertinent evidence and having a discussion about
Yeah,
it.
stitch it together. Whereas, like, I mean, we've talked about it. I don't know if you agree with this point, but sometimes on Expedition Bigfoot, they'll like end with like a really exciting flare image or something like that, and then they don't come back to it.
Right, and they never see the totality of it. It's like, I want to
Right.
see
We never
that.
talk
Slow
about
it down.
again. We never talk about it again. And this is the opposite, where they're bringing it up and they're like, hey, let's look at this again. And oh, here's another piece of video that we didn't share, but it's related to this. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm telling you, I was watching a couple of those episodes back to back that I had recorded. And I was like, whoa, this is really good.
Did you see that little square they pulled out? It looked like it was ceramic with the crossed lines on it.
Yeah.
And the product was healing itself.
Yeah.
When they took the electron microscope off of it, it started to. They realized, and again, you could spend 20 minutes talking about that.
Right.
When the electron microscope was on that, examining it, the product appeared to be eroding away.
Right.
And when they turned the electron, Travis said, "Try turn that thing off, Dan." When
Hey, shut that thing off a minute.
Shut that thing off. When they turned it off,
By the
it
way,
started to come back together.
I love that guy. I mean, he is just, he's a 10 out of 10, you know.
He's got a very weird smile. You ever see him when he smiles?
Oh, man. He's like, whoa. And if I still had hair, Bill, I'd be punking it up in the air like he does, too. He's like, I don't know. Let's fire a rocket at it.
Kev, you can always get some whacked out toupee and just wear it like you think it looks great.
Can I get like a Travis toupee? I don't know. Just fire a rocket up there. Let's see what we see. Come on. Did you see that rocket stop while it was coming down? It stopped. I don't know how it could stop.
Oh, man.
Anyway, but I want to point that out to our listeners. Of course, they're not a sponsor of the podcast or anything, but I mean, I'm a scientific guy, and I watched that, and I'm like, oh man, this is awesome how they're stitching it all together. Instead of just hitting on something that's really cool and, you know, getting us to tune in next time and never coming back to it, you know.
Yeah.
Which some of the other shows unfortunately do. Which
Yeah.
I get it. You gotta get viewers, you know.
I guess so, but from an educational standpoint or
100%.
interest standpoint, I want to know more about it, man.
I want to know more, and let's go back and look at it again. Let's know it wasn't like something that you just put together to make a cliffhanger at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So that was my public service announcement for Skinwalker this season.
All right, man. So what do you got? What are you pulling up?
Yeah, so we're going to the news, and we're going to talk about a recent sighting of Sasquatch or Bigfoot in Monroe, Michigan. So this was in the Detroit News
Okay.
not too long ago, a few weeks ago. And what's interesting about it is it's in a place called Monroe, Michigan, which at first it said, like the headline says, Bigfoot sighting in Monroe Woods deemed credible by tracking group, which is BFRO, by the way.
Okay.
And so I was like, all right, that got my attention. But I thought for sure, Bill, it was Monroe, Louisiana,
Okay.
which is, you know, really rural, swamp ape central, you know, et cetera. And I've been there. I haven't been to Monroe, Michigan. So
Okay.
here's how the account goes. You know, of Monroe, Michigan, not Louisiana, father and son claim they saw a Sasquatch. And, you know, the BFRO also believes that they did too. So the gentleman, Edward Henry, and his 12-year-old son went bow fishing, right? This is where you shoot your compound bow into fish,
Yep.
right? on May 18th, so not that long ago, in the swampy forest in South Monroe. See, I read this first, and that sounds a lot like Monroe, Louisiana, right?
Yeah, and you're
Swampy
talking
forest?
about, yeah, sounds like the same place.
Exactly. I mean, I'm like, I read it like 5 times. They heard a rustling in a tree, right, while they're bow fishing, and then they heard a loud thud on the ground. A big, heavy animal headed toward them in the brush until it was intercepted by their dog. The creature then moved quickly past trees and up a slope with the dog in hot pursuit until Edward Henry called him back.
Wow. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
It's amazing how a dog will, almost to their own hurt and then sometimes death, pursue something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And this father, well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, this happens a lot with these guys that bring dogs to hunt hogs.
Yeah.
They have to, a lot of them now put what would amount to be almost like a bulletproof vest around the dog's body.
To protect them. Yeah.
Yeah, and still they could catch it in an artery in the leg or something.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
A tusk and whatnot and get slashed.
Those hogs are nasty.
Yeah, no, they are nasty.
And by hogs, just to be clear, you don't mean groundhogs.
No. No, I'm not running from a groundhog. I'll tackle him to the ground.
He might stand up on his hind legs and give you a little bump.
Come over here and I'll bite you. I'm a chicken
got?
hawk.
Hey. What are you going to do without these pit bulls here, huh?
Yeah, who do you think you are, anyway?
So the Henrys, the father and son, were interviewed by the BFRO Bigfoot group after they filed a report about this incident in May. And they said the animal was as big as a bear, but it looked more like a gorilla.
Wow.
And they say that they got their best look at this creature when it ascended the slope in front of them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's climbing up a slope. They said it was hunched over while running on 2 legs, but even as it was hunched over, it was over 6 feet tall.
Wow, yeah, this is a big, big bugger.
Yeah. And speaking of a big bugger, they said it had a big rear end,
Yeah.
and it clearly had a very hairy back.
Okay.
And during the interview, Matt Moneymaker, of course, of BFRO, said, yes, that would be a Bigfoot.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, they have those big glute muscles and everything.
Yeah.
Just tremendous power.
I mean,
just
like a silverback gorilla.
Yeah.
You ever see them? Same thing.
Yes. It wasn't like the silverback gorilla or the Bigfoot developed the muscles. You know, like certain animals, even though they walk around slowly and whatnot, have extreme amounts of power.
Yeah.
And that was just a gift from God, creative thing, They are just like a mule.
Yeah.
A freaking mule. I watched this mule one day on a southern logging show where they were doing things the old school way, like cut one tree down and drag it out. This freaking mule, they hooked up a pair of these tongs to this tree, and the guy went like, ah! And that mule took off, dragging this huge tree by itself, and he actually almost couldn't stop it. It seemed like it would just go for a freaking marathon dragging this tree.
He's like, hey, wait a minute. You said it. Yeah. That means run with the tree. Now give me a carrot or I'm going to keep going.
But I believe these Bigfoot are the same thing. They are immensely powerful.
Oh, yeah.
And like the silverback or like anything else you want to name. And that's why, folks, you don't want to be in close quarters with them. Because should they decide that your ass is grass and they're the lawnmower, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's no defense. Amazing, huh?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Monroe, Michigan. So it's on the west end of Lake Erie. So on the shore of Lake Erie, basically, the western tip. And the western tip of Lake Erie is about halfway between the city of Toledo and the city of Detroit. And although Monroe, Michigan, Monroe County to be specific, it's a populous place. It still is a little rural, with this swampland and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the population is only about 21,000 people. So just to keep it in perspective, it's not a giant place, but it's still, it's not the place I would think you'd see a Bigfoot. But they say that the sighting was behind the Monroe County inmate dormitory in southeast Monroe, and the marsh there is teeming with deer and cattails. And, they say here in the article that those are two things. We know deer, but I didn't know cattails, that Sasquatch love to eat, especially in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, Kev, find the food source, find the animals.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think these guys were bow fishing there? There apparently was a fair amount of fish in there to have some fun bow hunting with.
Place. Good wildlife.
Like a refuge.
And then the other thing they say is that this marsh where they were hunting and saw this Bigfoot or Sasquatch is connected to a lot of other green belts or greenways, there in Monroe, and other farmland.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
Just saying perfect. It's a perfect scenario. You want to eat, you want to live, you got water, fish, deer, cattails, whatever else they can get, orchards. That's ideal.
Yeah.
Sneak around in there stealthily, get your pickings. In this case, he got seen.
Yeah. And a lot of these modern greenways or beltways, whatever you want to call them, I know that's true here too, in North Carolina, they're actually built on old railroad beds. And, we also know in a lot of these accounts, Bill, that that's kind of a little bit of a highway sometimes for the Bigfoot.
And wouldn't it be for anything, though, right?
Of course.
Like when you look at animals, what do hunters look for? Like deer hunters, they look for the game trail.
Yeah.
So if there is an old created highway or game trail, they all kind of use it. It just happens naturally. It's like a sidewalk,
100%.
And if it makes it easier for them and they don't have to get beat up going through the sticks and everything, let's walk over here. This is where we always walk,
Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting, man.
Yeah, so we got this sighting in Monroe, not Louisiana this time, but Monroe, Michigan.
What? So what did BFRO say? Did they go in there or they just took the report?
They just took the report, but they deemed it as highly credible.
Yeah.
Based on the interview.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting,
they rate everybody that they talk to, right? Based on where it is, the details they provide, how they answer the questions as they're interacting with them, and they got that big database, right? Based on that.
Yeah.
And they don't give everybody highly credible, right? You know that. But.
Right. Well, I told you in my own life, I kind of get a gut check almost immediately.
When you're talking to people, yeah.
Yeah, true or false. It just happens almost instantaneously.
Yeah.
But I think that's a little gift for me. Like we were talking about a few weeks ago about I have a track record now of things being correct.
Yep.
And I can stand with that. I could just say emphatically, I don't even need to know what you think about me saying that. It doesn't matter. I know what goes on, So let me, excuse me. I'm going to redo, if we have time, we'll do two. But I'm going to redo one here. One of my favorite accounts of all time. This unusual sighting was brought to my attention by a guy named Olaf Jurgensen, who was hunting within the Otter Tail Range on June 27th, 2004. And this is what Olaf saw, folks. And if you've never heard this before, it is incredible. I was on the hunt, working my way through the timber between Zinc and sodalite creeks, with my end goal being the surrounds of South Tower, which was in full view to my northeast. Having reached a point where I was about 4 hours into the morning, in my mind, I was thinking that I would stop for a break, when suddenly I began to hear the low gurgling caw of a flock of ravens, which seemed to be just ahead of me. At this point, I couldn't see the birds, but only hear their distant calls. As I hiked onward, stimulated now by the calls of the ravens and wondering what the ruckus was all about, I had moved forward through the timber about another 75 yards or so, to the point where I could now see the ravens circling in the sky just ahead of me. The raven, if you don't know, is considered to be one of the smartest of birds, being deemed able to solve a 6-piece puzzle. They seek out nests of other birds, and when found, one raven will distract any birds that may be protecting the nest, while the others rob it blind. The ravens, however, were not playing the part of the robbers this day, but were rather circling over what I believed must be a bear or a cougar, devouring something below them, waiting on high for the spoils to be left behind. Because of this, I was approaching the area with great caution, not wanting to stumble upon a feeding bear or lion. So I was slowly making my way through the trees and brush, and I was now approaching the zone where I could see the ravens circling directly above me. And still, I could see no reason on the ground for them wanting to circle above. I had a relatively good view of the entire area, shy of being able to see behind every tree. And I couldn't see any evidence of a predator feeding on anything within the forest. It was then that my eyes caught some movement well up into one of the taller pines. And lo and behold, there it was, a gigantic Sasquatch, clinging to the side of the tree, alongside of what appeared to be a large twiggy raven's nest. Now it became obvious to me why the relenting circling and cawing was taking place in the sky above the location. With turnabout being fair play, now apparently the tide had been turned, with the nest robbers now being the victims of a robbery themselves. It was remarkable to watch. The Sasquatch was at least 75 feet above the forest floor, its feet and legs wrapped around the tree's trunk, while holding onto an adjoining bough with one arm around it. The other hand was reaching repeatedly into a nest, as I could see then its hand going to its mouth. Over and over again, the beast repeated this movement, indicating to me it was eating chicks and or eggs that were within the nest. I watched the beast carry on its activities, as I remained well hidden below in the forest, some 40 or 50 yards away from where it was. There came a point when watching it that it seemingly had had its fill of whatever was available in the nest, and it began to climb into what was even a higher position in the tree, approaching something I hadn't seen before, which was yet another raven's nest in the boughs above it. This creature was now well above 100 feet into the tree, And based on its size, I was wondering whether or not the surrounding boughs could even support it. No sooner had this thought entered into my mind than did I hear a loud crack, and the Sasquatch, having been caught unaware by the branch breaking, came tumbling down through the tree, smashing its body against numerous branches and at a variety of angles on its body until it reached a point where it was now in total free fall for the last 30 feet, hitting the ground with a thud. I watched as the beast lay there, apparently dead on the forest floor. The ravens now seemingly rejoicing above him, landing in the boughs above his body and cawing in a chorus looking down on him. Incredible. I'm looking at what was happening in front of me. Having thought to myself that the Sasquatch had to have died, the victim of such a brutal fall. Excuse me. I saw one of its arms lifting from the ground, as the beast was now rolling from side to side, groaning as it did so. With every groan that the Sasquatch made, the cawing of the ravens became louder, with many of the birds now descending lower and lower in the tree, as if to taunt the crippled beast even further. Remarkably, after some 20 minutes of groaning and rolling about, the Sasquatch made its way to its feet, its left arm hanging limp, and began to stagger away into the trees. This beast had fell through the tree and had broken through and bounced off maybe 8 large limbs, which were somewhere between 4 and 8 inches in diameter. Some of them broke or cracked as its body hit them, while with others he simply slammed into them, which caused his body to flip and tumble out of control until he hit the ground. I don't know how anything could survive such a fall and let alone walk away. When he was lying on the ground, his face was initially down until he began to roll over and back and forth. This was followed by him standing to his feet, at which point his face was still not visible to my eyes. I'd estimate his height to be somewhere between 8 and 9 feet tall, perhaps 4 or 5 feet at the shoulders wide. As soon as the creature had hit the ground, the ravens descended en masse, landing in the lower branches and swooping over his body, as if to taunt him for having received his just rewards. There must have been 50 or more large ravens cawing in unison, as if a victory had been won. It was simply unbelievable. There you have it, Kev.
I love that account.
Crazy, huh? To catch this thing in a tree and then the branch breaks.
Reminds me of Edgar Allan Poe, only the Bigfoot says, "Nevermore."
Yeah. Yeah, you know. And, you know, folks, again, people see something because they're looking. But not only that, you know, hunters are, particularly big game hunters in less populated areas, they're adventurous people. They're kind of a risk taker. I don't think they all realize the risk they're really taking. But they're willing to stick their neck out a little bit because they have a gun and they believe in their wisdom and understanding of the surrounds. But sometimes even then, the gun isn't enough, which is why I always say, always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. And here's this guy walking in here in the Ottertail Range, and he gets a little snoopy. He hears the cawing a little closer. He's got a little knowledge about why they might be circling, but yet he goes a little closer. And then he sees this thing up in the tree, man. 75 feet he estimated it was at. Amazing, huh?
No, I mean, and you say you got to be looking. I mean, this comes down to, we've talked about it in several different accounts that you've reviewed. Not only do you have to be looking in front of you, you got to be looking up sometimes in this case, and then you also have to be looking down.
Yeah.
Right? We've had those accounts where the Bigfoot was kind of lying on its stomach, looking under like the growth.
Yeah,
At
why
people
not?
where you're not looking there. You're looking around at 6 or 7 feet high off the ground in front of you, which is a natural thing to do.
Right.
But you certainly wouldn't be looking. How high was it? 70 feet up in a tree.
75, and then he thought it climbed to about 100.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't hear it, you'd never be looking up there for a Bigfoot.
No. But what brought his attention to the whole thing was the circling and this crazy cawing of the ravens.
Yeah, you can see that happen. I mean, you and I have seen that with either hawks or whatever. I mean, we don't have a lot of ravens, but certainly I hear it almost every morning. These red-tailed hawks are like screeching about something. Now, most of the time, it's nothing interesting,
Yeah.
I think it's the female hawk telling the male hawk to pick up some milk over at the dairy store.
Hey, bring me home a squirrel.
Hey. I told you to bring me a squirrel. Hey. We're starving over here.
Well, I do have the crow meetings around here once in a while.
Yeah, well, they're noisy too.
Yeah, now they get together and you see them coming in. I don't even know how they organize all that, but they come together and
They send out email.
Send out an email, yeah.
They got email. A little meeting invite. They can see when the other crows are available. They schedule it that way. It's Microsoft Office.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's too much. Well, I was going to do another one, Kev, but what do you think, no?
I think we're good. I think we're at a good length here, and we got some good listener mail.
Okay, let's do it.
So let's save some powder for next week.
Save powder.
All right, so this first email comes in from Valerie, and she says, hello and thanks. She says, enjoy your podcast, gentlemen. I just ordered my third book, too. I live in Oregon and would go to Lincoln City via Route 18 every chance I got. We would stop occasionally once we got into the forest. On one occasion, I was taking pictures and told my husband I tried to get a picture of a bear I saw by a tree. Can't guess at distance. When we walked over to my location, it was gone. No picture of it. It was dark in that area. I've wondered for years if I misidentified this animal. I'll never know. Several folks told me there are no bears in that area, so the mystery remains in my mind. If I can move back to that area in a few years, I'll be more attentive and keep more equipment and firepower with me on all my journeys. Thanks to the information I've received from your podcasts. Keep it up, please, Valerie.
Interesting, huh, Kev?
Yeah. I mean, you certainly, Valerie, you were living in the hotbed. I don't know where you're living now, but Oregon is a hotbed.
Yeah, thinking she's seeing a bear and then being told there's no bears in that area.
Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with it, so I can't vouch one way or the other.
Yeah.
But obviously she was second-guessing what it was she saw.
Right.
And, that's enviable that she's not saying, I saw thus, and so, but rather putting it out there that I wonder,
Yeah, well, you and I would say that too. Like, you're like, hey, I think I saw a bear. And then you go to get a picture of it, you don't see it, and then you tell somebody, I think I saw a bear over there, and they're like, no, there's no bears here.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, okay, it wasn't a turkey or a deer.
Yeah. Yeah, you wonder
I know what they
it,
look like.
It's like I have a friend that saw a mountain lion right here in Long Island. And guy is just a no bullshit individual. He's not just telling me that because he's got nothing to do. And I think we spoke about this before. Like, where did these guys come from? I think people snafu'd some type of cat illegally when it was small, and then it got away. But he knew what he was saying, you know.
Well, and these things, you know, they're not quite like coyotes where they'll swim across, like by you. They're not going to swim across Long Island Sound, I don't think.
Yeah, no.
But these cougars, mountain lions, whatever you want to call them, they are crafty and really stealthy.
Yeah.
You know, most of the time when people catch them on the trail cam, like they catch their tail, which is unmistakably a mountain lion tail, but that's all they get.
Yeah.
You know. And I know when I lived in eastern Washington, man, I told you, Bill, like they would be snatching kids once in a while out of people's yards. It was horrible. You know, in suburbia.
Yeah.
And you'd never see one. We'd see bear, but we'd never see a cougar or mountain lion. And then when I was mountain biking out there, I thought it was like a hazing ritual when I went out for the first time going down Mount Spokane. We were riding down, and the guys gave me these stickers of big eyeballs, and they're like, put that on the back of your helmet. I'm like, what are you talking about? Put these on the back of my helmet. And they're like, well, you know, the mountain lion, like they sit and they wait for us to come down the mountain, anybody on bikes, and they try to pick off the last person in the row while we're rolling down the mountain, but they won't do it if they think you're looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
So you put these big sticky eyeballs on the back of your bike helmet.
Incredible, huh?
Yeah. And I don't know if it really makes a difference, but I never got eaten by a mountain lion, you know.
Well, over in Malaysia and stuff, they do that by putting a mask on the back of the last guy's head.
Same thing. Same thing.
So the tigers, the cats hunt the same way, you know.
Sure.
Horrible, huh? And see, somebody in my neck of the woods can't relate to a kid getting snatched out of their yard and killed by an animal.
Yeah.
They don't hear about it. It doesn't make the news.
And you just don't have that kind of wildlife.
Yeah. I get it, but it's like baloney to them. Like, come on, man. What are you talking about?
No, it really happens.
Yeah, I know.
It really happens.
Wow. Well, thank you, Valerie. Well, I thought it was Valerie Bertinelli.
Eddie Van Halen's ex-wife?
Yeah, remember her? She was on that TV show. She was she was like a Farrah Fawcett girl at the time, you know, attractive.
Yeah.
Everybody had wanted, you know, she looked at her like, wow, you know.
Yeah, then she married Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah. Poor Eddie. Go ahead, Kev.
Died too young. All right, our last email, Bill, comes in from Chip. And he writes, weird connection with one of your prior shows. He says, I'm an avid listener for over 3 years. I've listened to all of the episodes by now, so he must be double time in it. Every week at 4 a.m., I listen to the show, and I am very vested in the show. In one of your prior episodes, I was blown away when you said the story about Chip and his Minnesota Vikings hat. And he says his last name here.
Okay.
I'm not saying that on purpose. And he said, I am Chip, whatever, and I also wear Minnesota Vikings hats. Very uncommon to be a Vikings fan in this area. He says, it's a curse from my dad because they can never win the big one. As sad as it is for that Chip on your podcast, this Chip always carries more gun than he thinks he's going to need.
Yeah, and that was the Chip that was at the shooting range, folded up behind the dashboard of the truck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we know it wasn't this Chip.
Yeah. Amazing, Kev.
Yeah, so he says it was a crazy connection for me.
Yeah, the same name and a Minnesota Vikings hat.
Yeah, same last name, same first name.
Amazing. Really
Cool
amazing.
stuff.
Yeah, listen, folks, you know, Kevin and I say every podcast, you know, if you've seen something, say something, and you could catch up with us at BigfootTerrorInTheWoods.com and just hit the contact button. Sometimes we get more or less email, reports, no reports. But listen, if you call me or contact me and tell me something's going on and I reach out to you or you leave me your number, please take the time to make that connection and spend some time, because I'm genuinely interested in what you have to say and what you have seen or experienced. So
yeah, and even if you don't want to talk, that's okay. Leave us a note. Tell us what you think. How do you like things? If you have an idea of something that we should cover, I love hearing from you. It gives me a lot of good ideas for cryptids in the news and other oddities. Lets me know what you guys like. And then also, not only contact us, I know we're asking a lot tonight, but it's good stuff. It keeps us going. Give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast player, because it's virtually the only way we have of attracting new listeners to the podcast.
Right. No, it's good stuff. We love to hear from everybody. You know that, Kev. And I've made some very good friendships through the years with a lot of listeners, a lot of people who initially had called to report their sightings and findings, and a lot of genuinely really good and cool people are in our listening audience. So I'm always glad to make the acquaintance. And remember, folks, if you should find yourself walking by zinc and sodalite creeks on the hunt, like Olaf Jurgensen was when he encountered the Bigfoot in the tree, remember one thing, my friends. Always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. Sleep tight.